stopped cold turkey in the summer after talking with a psychiatrist and experienced horrific physical withdrawal and anxiety. Turns out this is more than common with clonazepam. Did you know they put suicide warnings on the bottle in the States? Would have been nice to know prior to the prescription.
You keep telling us that your diet solved all your problems. You keep telling us that your 100% meat diet cures depression, cures what ails you physically, psychologically, mentally, makes you look great and feel great. And then you turn around and tell us cancer, drug addiction. And why? Why? Because a grown man with a PhD in clinical psychology didn't know that benzodiazepines are addictive.
Mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, collecting duct, at the end of April. It was unbearable. I didn't sleep for 2 days when we found out. Mom and Dad walked around in a stupor. I've never experienced anything like that amount of stress before. I didn't get my period this summer until we found out Mom's going to be okay. After that terminal diagnosis, she had a total kidney removal, and then there was a surgical complication.
These people attribute so many miraculous health benefits to their diet. Miraculous changes in mood, they cure depression. Why is it that they don't attribute any of these problems to their 100% meat diet? You eat nothing but meat and your period stops. You get amenorrhea. Oh, no, you attribute that to stress related to your mother having cancer. Your mother has kidney cancer, which is very clearly causally related to the meat in the human diet. We've covered this before in other videos. Google it if you want to. Oh, no. None of that can be attributed to the 100% diet. Only the miraculous positive benefits are, never any of the problems. And then this downward spiral into depression, and for Jordan Peterson, downward spiral into drug addiction. Would you attribute that to the 100% meat diet? No. Does anyone else think this is just slightly unscientific reasoning that's going on here?
I'm pretty anti-pharmaceutical, and you guys know why, considering my background. But I did try clonazepam a couple of times this summer to try to stop panicking. It was not good. And when Dad got back, he tried to get off the medications he was prescribed. Turns out clonazepam is hell to get off of. I had taken lorazepam for about 1.5 years when I was 20 to help with sleeping and hadn't had an issue getting off of it. Didn't realize clonazepam is an entirely different monster. So he stopped cold turkey in the summer after talking with a psychiatrist and experienced horrific physical withdrawal and anxiety. Turns out this is more than common with clonazepam. Did you know they put suicide warnings on the bottle in the States? Would have been nice to know prior to the prescription.
You have a PhD in clinical psychology, and people in the audience, you may not know this. The research on benzos, the research on bennies, the research on benzodiazepines was already an open and shut case in the 1960s. This is, if anything, a somewhat antiquated drug to get hooked on. This is not leading edge science. People did not just figure out yesterday that benzodiazepines are addictive. And Jordan Peterson could have simply looked up the name Klonopin. That's a trade name. Klonopin is listed in Wikipedia, and right there, addictive. He could have read the label properly too. The complaint here is the label didn't adequately warn him. You have a PhD in clinical psychology, and you came out and told the public that your 100% meat diet cured your depression, that it solved all your problems. And then we found out that you became an addict. You became addicted to Klonopin. You became addicted to a form of benzodiazepine. And why? Because you were depressed, because you were anxious, because you were miserable, because your 100 meat diet did not cure you. This is yet another lie revealed.
Dad's in rehab using other medications to try and get off of this clonazepam. They use shorter-acting benzodiazepines to help wean off the clonazepam, which is a very long-acting benzodiazepine. So let this be a warning to people. Be very wary of clonazepam. It's not just an anti-anxiety medication. It's very, very difficult to get off of without experiencing physical withdrawal if you take it for more than 6 weeks, say.
It doesn't take genius to look at this label and figure out that this is a dangerous drug with serious side effects. It takes honesty, it takes personal integrity, it takes a measure of self-doubt. It requires a set of characteristics that Jordan Peterson, in his mindset as a crazed religious leader, is utterly lacking. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that eating a 100% meat diet is unhealthy. It just takes the humility to Google around, compare and contrast a variety of scientific sources analytically. You know what? She's right. This Made in Canada label from Klonopin, it doesn't tell you what to think. It doesn't tell you good or evil. That's up to you. You have to do your own research and draw your own conclusions. And the same self-righteous moron who has been preaching that there's nothing wrong with SSRI drugs, there's nothing wrong with antidepressants for all these years, and he's been prescribing them to his patients and giving sanctimonious lectures in his shitty university classes, that same moron got addicted to bennies because he couldn't put aside his ego and Google it and figure out the side effects of Klonopin. The same way he never could set aside his personal biases, his personal sense of religious mission and purpose, to question his idiotic, self-destructive, carcinogenic 100% meat diet, a diet that is putting him, his wife, his daughter, all into an early grave.
I've never seen my dad like this. He's having a miserable time of it. It breaks my heart. He decided to check himself into a place because he didn't want to stress mom out and wanted to get off of this as quickly as possible and honestly needs the medical help. We figured we should let people know before some tabloid finds out and publishes Jordan Peterson, self-help guru, is on meth or something. So yeah, the situation's really sad. He looks like a lost puppy, but it'll only last while he gets this horrible medication out of his system, and then we'll be good to go again.
What was stopping you from going to Google and looking at Wikipedia and figuring that out? It's not just ignorance. It's pious ignorance. It's an attitude of faith from a man who was and has been and still is deeply, passionately committed to the idea that SSRI drugs, antidepressants, are a pill that can cure human sorrow. And there is no pill for human sorrow. There is no cure for human sorrow. If the situation you're in objectively is miserable, it's a natural response that you're going to feel subjectively miserable. And if you get high on caffeine, you might not notice. And if you get high on cocaine, you might not notice. And if you get high on bennies, on benzodiazepines, you might not notice. And SSRI drugs have got to be the least effective by far. SSRI drugs are less effective than alcohol at providing you with that distraction. But ultimately, the chemical pathway we're talking about here is the same. Antidepressants do not cure what's wrong with you any more than alcohol or cocaine cure what's wrong with you. They distract you from what's wrong with you at best. And they have a long list of side effects that go with that distraction. PhD in clinical psychology. You come on the internet claiming your 100% meat diet cures depression. You have decades of prescribing people antidepressants without doing the research, without looking into the science of how these drugs work or how they don't work. And then you yourself became an addict, became chemically dependent on benzodiazepines because you had blind faith in these drugs instead of even doing the 10 minutes of research, the 10 minutes of skeptical thinking that could begin and end with a Wikipedia article, as far as I'm concerned. Right? This stuff is not hard to know. It's a kind of passion, like faith, that prevents people from knowing it. They believe in the pill because they want to believe. They believe in the cure because they want to believe. And someone like Jordan Peterson is in every important way not a scientist, but just a kind of eccentric leader of a modern day religion.
Dun, 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 dun.